Yes.
You lay out a number of things in your talk that made all sorts of sense to me in terms of how a person should think, act, behave, and so forth and so on. But it also seemed to me to set a standard that would be for most, if not all people, be unattainable. Now, I guess where I'm a little confused is if you have to attain that level of perfection to achieve enlightenment, but you see that level as being unattainable, does that mean you need to think of enlightenment as unattainable?
No, quite the contrary. I mean, yeah, I said the opposite. Yes, those qualities are, qualities in which there's a gradual maturation, in the sense that to begin with, you lose it a lot and you can do it, and sometimes. But then, I would suggest that if you're applying, you're applying yourself to this training. And particularly in the development of mindfulness, awareness on a regular basis, you begin to see improvements in those areas. So it's not a sense of you should be this way, and that's how a wise person is. But what I think you can see is, yes, I can see that I have a lot better awareness of the correct means towards ends, and bearing the goal in mind, being a lot more aware of my blind spots and weak points, and willing to learn about them, and so on and so forth. So they're more like kind of standards, I would say, rather than kind of how you should be. And I think that they're things that, by recollecting, that they give us some sense of direction and grounding in our daily life and in our practice, and have that sense of being stretched a little, I think, is really good. The sense of doing something which is a little bit difficult. Yeah. So it's more a sense. There is a kind of extrapolation that you can perform, in the sense that you begin to see that when you're calm, and when your mind is somewhat peaceful, you find that events, people, things that go on which would formerly have really upset you, or really made you irritable or angry, actually now you don't, you feel okay with it. And from that you say, well, if with this level of calm, if there's that kind of reduction in the amount of anger in my mind, well, if I go another step further, then it makes sense that there will be a further reduction of anger, and maybe there's a point further up the path where there'll be no anger at all. So if you see this steady kind of decrease in certain negative qualities and a steady increase in others, even though it may be very minor or very mundane, then you can extrapolate from that. You can see, yes, I can see where this is leading to. I think that's very empowering in meditation. Anybody else?
May I ask another question?
Yes, of course.
Philosophical. When he says the way we see things is colored by our vision, yes, I agree with that. But then it goes on, seeing the ultimate truth means ridding us of our conditioning. I wonder if I could rid myself of all conditioning, I wouldn't see anything anymore. I mean, the very fact of seeing requires that you are conditioned to something. Now, of course, some conditioning is more sympathetic than others. If you're greedy, jealous, selfish, you can change your conditioning into non-selfish, peaceful, more sympathetic.
Yeah.
Is there any... As many visions on the world as there are conditions.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why one would say this is the ultimate truth?
I didn't write that, did I? No. I didn't write that, did I?
Oh, it's there now.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I quoted from the head.
No. The teaching which is common to all the Buddhist schools, we call the Four Noble Truths. The truth of dukkha, usually translated as suffering, the cause, the end, and the path to the end of suffering. Now, with each of those noble truths, there is what we call a duty or a practice. And the first noble truth of suffering is it's something to be known. The second, the cause of suffering, is to be abandoned. The third, the end of suffering, is to be realized, and the path is to be followed, okay, or cultivated. Now, conditioning lies within the first noble truth. It's something to be known and something to be recognized. So recognizing conditioning as conditioning is basic practice. Now, in the practice of abandonment of the cause of suffering, then all those mental states which are conditioned by defilement will gradually atrophy and eventually disappear. But there will be certain conditions which are not directly the consequence of negative mental states, which will survive. So that's why if you were to talk with a Thai arahant, then they still have certain cultural values, certain things that ways of looking at the world, perhaps ideas about hierarchy or about relationship of men and women and things that they picked up from their childhood, from their environment, and which are just part of their world view, which would be quite different from, say, an arahant born in another country or another culture, for instance. So the conditioning which disappears is that which is directly result of ignorant or defiled mental states, whereas those conditions which are neutral or not, then they will usually stay the same, unless for some reason there is an effort to educate oneself or to change one's view about something. But yeah, it's not the end of all conditioning in that sense, I would say. No. There's Ajahn Chah, where you talk about arahants or enlightened beings as like many different species of bird. You know, you say big birds and small birds and brightly coloured birds, and you know, they're all quite different in their colours and shapes, but they're all recognisably birds. So you have people who realize states of enlightenment, and some of them can be very quiet and shy, others can be kind of outgoing, and some of them very charismatic, and others not very charismatic at all. So these kinds of personality traits don't necessarily disappear. Well, yes, peace of mind. It's a little bit like good health. You know, you can. often you can. How do you define like good health? You say, well, no aches and pains. You don't have cancer or diabetes or this or that. You end up talking about all the things that are not present. But to talk about good health, physical health in a positive sense is rather difficult. And similarly with peace of mind, well, we can say that there are no hindrances in the mind. The mind is not distracted, is not moved by, is not the prey to negative emotions. It's not unduly affected by circumstance. It has a stability, a brightness, a flexibility, a profundity which is independent of circumstance. That would be my answer.